Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the, getting too close to the holiday season, y'all are getting kind of wild. Welcome to the November the 10th work session for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. We're going to start out tonight with the opportunity for citizens to make comments that are not on the agenda, on items that are not on the agenda. So does anyone want to speak to this body tonight? I see no one coming forward, so we'll continue to move on. And we have Mike Desmond that's going to come give a presentation by the Downtown Neighborhood Association. So come on up, Mike. And
Thank you. Let's see, I know I sent Eric a presentation, and if it's, for those that, there's a pretty close copy to what should be on the screen. First of all, good evening. I appreciate all your time. I did peek at your agenda. I think you have about, 17 or 18 items on the agenda, so I did the math. That leaves about, 8 minutes per item. So I'll try and speed my way
we're going to be done by 6:30.
Oh, okay. So first of all, Mike Desmond, I live about 2.5 blocks away from here, and I've been a resident of Franklin, I think, for about 14 or 15 years, so that probably makes me a newbie compared to a lot of people that are here around the table. So I'm here really to represent the DNA, and I know, we're a life full of acronyms, not the DFA. Does most everybody around here know what DNA stands for? Franklin Downtown Neighborhood Association. If you look at the front of this presentation, you'll see a picture of a historic home, and that's really, I was going to bring about 300 of my best friends that represent the DNA, but they were a little busy tonight, so they asked me to come, and we have a couple of my colleagues and partners in crime here on the second row, should any of you get disorderly. So if you'll flip to the second page, it's not, basically, it tells you a little bit about the Downtown Neighborhood Association. I've been in the DNA, I guess, for probably about 8 or 9 years. I'm currently the president of the DNA. We roughly have over 300 members from downtown that are in the DNA. And really, the purpose of the DNA is for us to collectively try and get some thoughts and ideas together and then come and share them here with the administration. So that's really effectively what the purpose is here. You can see our mission statement. We've got a couple things in here we try and exercise greater control over our economic, political environment, promote and foster neighborhood identity and a sense of community, and cooperate in appropriate ways with state and local government. In fact, for those that don't know, Margaret is on our board with us, and we're glad to have her. So in on the next page actually has a copy of the geographic footprint, and this was expanded a few years ago. I think it was actually under Ernie's leadership. We kind of expanded the total footprint of the DNA. And right now, I think when we hand our flyers out for all the members around the neighborhood, we'll get close to around 375 or 400 flyers out to people that we kind of attract to the Downtown Neighborhood Association. So in the summer of this year, I think it was in early July, we had a meeting where we pull as many members as we can together, and we ask them to vote on a set of priorities where they would like to see this board entertain, supporting, and sponsoring. So if you go to the next page in the deck, you'll see a list of the 5 priorities that we kind of laid out for the board members. And after all the voting was in, we did all the tabulating, and we kind of ranked them up high to low. And the very first one on there was support for the Bicentennial Park, including walkways and pathways, and including the Harpeth River. And I read the paper and I watch some of these different meetings that go on, and I know that's a little bit of a contentious issue and figuring out how and ways to put those walking paths and bike paths around. I know it's probably not an easy thing to do, but on behalf of the Downtown Neighborhood Association, that was one of the things that we would love to see done. In fact, every now and then I have some friends that live over in the Brentwood area. When you're over there around Ravenwood High School and you see all the paths that they have carved through the community there, and a lot of people out walking, biking, exercising, that would be a great addition to downtown Franklin if we could figure out how to do that. The second one that was on our list is the gateway corridors and connectors, streets. In fact, if some of you want to cheat and jump ahead, you can actually peek at the last page in this presentation. I'll actually show you how the voting turned out. And this one is an area, first of all, streetscapes is great. It's going well. And at least for me, an item that I think of when we talk about streetscapes is the extension of Main Street down towards the factory. With Harlansdale, that's a great resource as well. But every now and then, as a downtown resident, whether I go to the farmer's market, and I'd love to walk there or bike there, it's a tricky thing to do because of that little stretch of road from where Main Street formerly ends and then all the way up to the factory. How do you get up there without putting your life at risk a little bit? So anyway, that came in kind of really, number one and number two were really very close from a voting standpoint. The third area that was on our priority list was the redevelopment of key properties downtown. And we listed some of the ones here: Harper Square, First Tennessee Bank Building, the movement of Franklin First United Methodist Church out of town, what's going to happen with that. Those are very important things for us as a downtown community. And you know, I guess over my life, I've made a lot of decisions, some big decisions, and one of the best big decisions I made was to move into downtown Franklin. There isn't a day that goes by, whether I land at the Nashville airport or wherever it is, or drive into Franklin. I am thankful that I live here. It's a great town, but one of the great resources that we have that other local towns don't have is the beauty of our historic downtown homes, and a lot of the people in the DNA, you know, continue to work hard to keep those homes up, and that's a great charming aspect to our little town here in Franklin. So what goes on with some of these other properties is near and dear to us. In fact, the very fourth item on our list is a strict application of historic zoning. It's important. In fact, Margaret knows that. We have some people on our board that I believe actually have a tape measure, you know, in their purse or in their wallet or on their belt, and we'll run around, and if we say, hey, a building's not going to be more than 53 feet high, we'll do our best to try and measure that it's not 53 and a half feet high, or stick to those zoning ordinances. And the very last one that was on the list had to do with traffic. And as somebody who commutes downtown into Nashville back and forth, every now and then, especially last year and maybe over the last 12 months, traffic in Franklin for me has been a challenge from time to time. But unfortunately, I think it's getting better. Some of the road construction is behind us, but I think there's more road construction ahead. I think that what are we going to do? Tear up Hillsborough Road, and so yeah, that's coming not too far away. So anyway, I'm not here to ask for a vote. I'm not here to ask for money. I'm not here to ask for support, other than for you to at least look and see and recognize these are some of the things that the Downtown Neighborhood Association would like to figure out how to put on your list of priorities if there's an opportunity to support them. If there are things that you would like us to do as a downtown community, Margaret's probably a great vehicle, or Eric, or anybody can reach out, and we'd be happy to help and support, you know, any of the initiatives on here that kind of came out as our priorities. So let me stop there. Well, before I leave, one quick commercial. We do have a holiday social that's about 4 weeks away. It's Monday, December the 14th. It goes off right 1 block away from Starbucks over in OD Hall. I'll pass this around for any of you that are available. On Monday the 14th, you're welcome to come out, and we'll probably turn out about 100 downtown residents. So I'll stop there. Any thoughts, questions from anybody?
I believe you did a great job, Mike.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming. Appreciate your work. Okay, now we have a presentation on the Middle Tennessee Electric Membership Cooperative Tree Growth Regulators. And Brandy, I didn't get an opportunity to ask whether you wanted to introduce this since Sure. You're on the tree commission and are over it, so if you want to just lead off, that'd be great.
I'm going to admit I don't remember everyone's names, but I do know Michael Johnson. He serves on the tree commission. We met at our last meeting, and these fine gentlemen were explaining a new, I'm going to say product or alternative. We'll go with that. I know that it can be contentious around the community as Middle Tennessee tries to do their due diligence in keeping things safe and out of the wires. And so these gentlemen met with us, and it was the Tree Commission's unanimous choice that they share with you and the community what the plans are, just as a information, if nothing else. So I don't know, Michael, if you want to start, or how we want to do this. So, but thank you
Joe
guys.
Starr.
I'm Joe Osborne. I'm the vegetation manager with Middle Tennessee Electric. And first of all, we want to thank you for allowing us to come over and visit with all you fine people of Franklin. What we're after here is there's a lot of trees and all over our system that we prune, yard trees. You guys can probably prune some of these trees here. This product, Jason, Mike, and Brian, this product will allow us, we're trying to minimize our footprint on your property. Maybe silver maple, some of those types of trees, we're on your property every year and a half or so. So with this product, it slows the growth rate of the trees we prune. And like I said, you just won't see us as often. Like I said, I'll let these guys get to the details, improves the health of the tree. And like I said, I'll let these guys introduce themselves as we go, won't hold you up.
I'm Jason Sellers with EDCO. We're a application company for tree growth regulators, and we're contracted to Middle Tennessee to do this work. And we'd just like to explain to everybody a little bit more about the product and answer any questions you guys might have. There we go. So EDCO, I'll go fast. We're located kind of all over the east side of the country. We have a kind of a local office. Coleman, Alabama is where the service to Tennessee comes from. And Brian runs that office for us in the blue jacket here. So I'm going to go a little faster than we went at the tree board meeting, but we serve several power companies, big and small, and investor owned and municipal owned, all over the east side of the country there. So research on TGR started back in the 1950s, and technology has advanced a lot. We use a product that you put in the soil, and the tree is allowed to just take it up, similar to a fertilizer, how a fertilizer is taken up. It's a liquid, but we inject it with a injection probe in the soil around the base of the tree. This chemistry, like I said, is the most recent generation of TGRs, and it just slows the elongation of cells. It doesn't reduce the number of cells produced. So that's how a branch is shortened. It's the same number of cells, they're just not as long. Old TGRs would wound the trees. You know, do damage to the bark, but like I said, this is in the soil around the tree. So it's a systemic application, and that's what's preferred for this technology. So our program, you can see there on the slideshow, that's the injection probe, and it's close to the trunk of the tree where the product can be taken up by the feeder roots. We've done this for a long time, treated over 1 million trees in I think 17 states now, actually, in the eastern half of the U.S. So the equipment you'd see is a pickup truck, similar to a pest control type truck. We measure the tree to get the dosage. We've got our own software program that tells our applicators how to dose each species of tree by its species and size, and those records are kept and turned into the utility. In general, you see about a 40 to 70% reduction in growth, depending on the species. And when you're talking about clearance from the line, that's a pretty big deal. A tree can respond in its first year after pruning with 8 to 10 feet of growth. If we can reduce that by half at the tail end of a cycle, that could mean 2 or 3 years more of clearance, and that means less intrusion into that tree and into that area. Just some examples of treated versus untreated trees. This is in Florida on live oak. And again in Mobile with live oak. And so the goal is to extend and protect the line clearing investments for Middle Tennessee, extend trimming cycles in high traffic areas or customer sensitive areas, reduce any mid-cycle maintenance that may be occurring, and you know, enhance safety for the utility workers and the public. The product that we use is ArborLock. It's a product by Davy, Davy Institute, and Mike is a representative of Davy here. And if there's any specific questions on the product, we can certainly, Mike can handle those for you. Davy's a very large company, over 8,000 employees, established a long, long time ago, and is a large provider in residential type tree care and also in the utility market. The Davy Institute is where the products are developed and really are sold from. And Davy has several product lines, ArborLock being one of them, in the kind of tree care side of the business. So toxicity, it's very low. It's similar to several products there. You can see Purell, Deep Woods Off, Banana Boat, suntan lotion. Those are more toxic than ArborLock. And I kind of, the 8-minute deal kind of had me nervous. So I wanted to speed through how I could and just really be here more to answer any questions you guys might have about the product or the service or the objectives that Middle Tennessee has. But thank you very much for your
Michael,
time.
I would ask you to explain to them this is an option.
Yeah, this is an option. This is just another tool for our tool bag. We're still going to be doing, trying to remove the trees that's been trimmed for years and years, and they look just awful and they're half dead. We're still trying to remove those, do the stump grindings, do the tree replacements. This is just something else where a homeowner doesn't want their tree removed, they're dead set against it. We could treat the tree. Instead of coming once every 2 years to trim his tree, we'll come once every 3 years, so it'll cut down a third of the time that we're in the yard every 6 years. And it's a product sort of like Miracle-Gro. Everybody uses Miracle-Gro on their flowers. Well, this just does the opposite of Miracle-Gro.
Good analogy.
Right. And these type products are used on golf course greens around here every day. And it's pretty much the same thing.
Is there a minimum size tree that you'll treat with it?
Generally 4 inches in diameter is where we cut it off.
And explain what this means to the homeowner financially.
Financially, their electric bills will go down because we won't be there trimming trees because it costs a lot of money to trim
Right, but there's
trees.
no charge for this
Right.
application.
And they have a choice. If they don't want it, we'll skip them and go to the next. It's not something we're going to force on our members.
We notify homeowners if they're not home with a door hanger. There's an 800 number on the door hanger. Our people man that 800 number, and they can opt out of the treatment.
So if they don't opt out, then you'll do it.
Then you will.
Is that
That's right.
So there is not a charge to the homeowner?
Not to the homeowner.
So what are you saying to the public tonight, if they choose to use this service, that they can call Middle Tennessee Electric, and they will come out and treat your tree in your private property?
Right. We're going to be doing certain areas at certain times. We might not do all of Franklin this year. It may be part of it next year or 2 years down the road, but we'll do it in a systematic approach like we trim the whole Williamson County area.
Well, it would be in the right of way.
Yes, sir.
That's what I want to make sure. This is not, you getting a
This,
call.
these trees that we're targeting are definitely the ones that are in the right of way. It's the fast-growing trees that are directly under a line that we can't manage like we want to manage them.
Anything negative out of this, out of any state or anything, don't, yes, if somebody didn't want to do it, they just don't do it, then you go trim their tree. Okay?
Right.
And let me just, I joined Middle Tennessee about a year ago. I'm from Oklahoma, and I've used the product there since '06 or '07. You're always going to have concerned citizens if you're organic farmer and things of that nature, and that's why it's an opt-out. If you don't like us to do it, that's fine. But our ultimate goal is we just kind of want to reduce the footprint. Right here in this great downtown area is a great example. We don't, there's trees we prune. This will just eliminate us coming in, blocking traffic. It just helps out all together. And like I said, it's just a great opportunity. Like I said, we're just grateful to let you guys let us come in and let us pass the information on, and then you can, run with it.
Alderman Burger.
Oh, I was looking that up earlier, and I didn't see a whole lot, but I do have a couple questions that I really didn't have the time to research enough to, I want to know. Bee pollination, they have issues with the herbicides that we have today. So how does this one affect bee pollination? Issues with the environment. I know there's been a few little things, but not a whole lot. The water table, this leaching into the water table, into the drinking water, and how that's cleaned out. So the leaching, pollination are my two that I'm more concerned about.
I can handle the pollination side of it for you and just let you know that the paclobutrazol is not one of the chemicals that EPA has identified as being extremely toxic to bees. So we're not aware of any ill effect. It's not a neonicotinoid pesticide. It's not.
Oh,
Um,
well,
So,
thought maybe it was on the low level.
no, it doesn't have any neonicotinoids in it.
Neonicotinoid? No, it's not.
It's not acutely toxic to bees or pollinators, so from our research on it, we don't see an issue with pollinators on it, like you would with like emerald ash borer treatments or those kinds of things.
Well, the ash borer would be.
The side of the leaching into groundwater, if used improperly or too much is put into the ground, that is certainly a risk.
Yep.
I'm not aware of any concrete studies on that, but with the way that they do it, with calculating the diameter of the tree and calculating the dose and putting it right there where the feeder roots are, I think that's a very remote risk.
When they put the applications on, are these things measured for the application according to the size of the tree growth, or because you're going to have some trees that are diameters are much smaller, and other ones that have been around 100 years, maybe 50 years?
It's, the product's dosed by diameter and species. So research has been done of how much product needs to be used on a certain species by its size. So say a sweet gum tree is a lower dosage type tree. So a 10-inch sweet gum may only take 1,000 milliliters, whereas a higher rate tree that's 10 inches could take 2,500 milliliters. So it's dosed by species and size.
Okay, and then how does this affect any fruit trees that may be nearby?
We don't treat fruit trees.
Okay, and how
We do.
about if there's fruit trees in the vicinity, and this gets into the water table?
If there's
Towards
a
the-
fruit tree that can take up the product directly next to a target tree, we will skip that target tree.
Okay, and we are assured that the people are trained enough to not get into, the dosage and the observance of what's around? Because, that's a big responsibility to know
It
that.
is. Have to be able to identify the tree. That's the main thing. So that's important.
I think so, and I would think that would be, so I assume that the people treating these are fully trained in this?
Trained by EDCO, that's right.
By EDCO?
By EDCO.
Okay. What, do they go to a class, or do they come in and train your people?
By
or-
managers and
Yeah.
supervisors in our company.
And these are all parts of the training that are
Yes, ma'am.
gone through with the people?
That's right.
'Cause those would just be I wasn't really sure about the bee pollination, but I would think about the leaching and the groundwater would be more of a concern.
The product is actually in a clay-based solution as well. So when it's diluted by water, it's diluted 1 to 11, so 11 parts water.
Right.
That, we're actually putting a water-soil mix into the soil. So that's how it kind of stays in place.
Do you have pumps for this, or do you have stakes for this? How do you put it into the soil?
It's a pump.
It's not a spray.
It's not a spray, no. It's a
Be-
soil probe,
Yeah.
and it's got a trigger.
Like a
and
fertilizer
pump.
probe
Right,
kind of thing?
that's right.
Okay. All right. So it's right there at the base? Right.
To help you with the fruit tree issue, while not labeled in the United States for fruit trees, just because no company has seen an economic gain to using this on fruit trees in the United States, They use this in Asia all the time on fruit trees in Asia.
That might be a red flag. Don't go there, especially if it's China. Okay, well, I guess that's all my questions. Thanks.
Alderman Martin.
I don't know of many things that upset a residents as much as looking out and having their trees cut in the front. So I'm sure you've dealt with that.
Yes, many of them.
We deal with it too, and
Right.
so we just have to refer them to you.
Right.
But
That's how we deal with it.
But it is very disconcerting to have trees that you're accustomed to just be chopped down. And so if we can eliminate some of that stress in people's lives, I think that's a good thing.
And ultimately, that's our goal. Like I said, we're tree stewards as well. Most of us are arborists, and like I said, we love trees, we have trees, we want to treat your property just as if they were our own. So it's just unfortunate we have a large variety of trees growing there, energized conductors. It's not safe for the public, for your children. You know, I've seen anything as far as swings and all sorts of crazy things in trees and their power lines, and property owners just don't know how dangerous that situation is.
All right, in Franklin, we have one side for the Middle Tennessee electric lines and one side for telephone lines, I guess.
No, ma'am, it could be Middle Tennessee
Can you-
Electric, like on Franklin Road, up past where on Hillsborough Road, just past where they finished the new streetscapes project. We're on both sides of the road up through there.
Well, sometimes you're on one side.
Right.
And sometimes you're on the other. Will this include trees on both sides or just your side?
Just the side that Middle Tennessee Electric's on. It won't include the telephone.
Thank you.
Unless the telephone wants to join the program.
Right.
Well, good job.
Thank you, fellas.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Where does EDCO get this from, with this particular herbicide? Who
From
makes
Davy.
it?
We supply it to them.
And where
And it's manufactured by the Tide Group.
Oh, the what?
The Tide Group,
Oh, it is?
yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Go. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Item number 3 is consideration resolution number 2015-90 entitled a resolution to approve a payment in lieu of taxes program for the Lee Company as requested by the Industrial Development Board of Williamson County. Tonight, we do have Russell Harwell, Stuart Raleigh, and Bill Lee. I'll let Mr. Stuckey kind of highlight it, and there may or, oh, we've got Elizabeth West, too, from the Economic Development of Williamson, Inc.
I'll give a quick overview of what's proposed and then open it up for more discussion from representatives from Lee and questions from the board. We have the opportunity in the proposed opportunity tonight to provide support for Lee Company in their expansion. The good news is they've done very well, and they've outgrown their existing corporate headquarters and operations center on Mallory Station. So they're looking to expand and invest further in the community. And what is covered in what is proposed to you tonight is a short-term property tax abatement for a period of approximately 5 years for their investment of around $24 million in capital investment and the addition of, I believe the number's around 61 jobs, 60-plus jobs, something like that. 61 one place, also 68 another. So it's in that neighborhood of 60 jobs, and this would provide an abatement there. It's been approved by the Industrial Development Board, and the County Commission approved it last night as well. And so we are essentially doing what we've done in other situations where we are matching the county's property tax abatement, both in terms of the period of time and the amount of abatement in support of, in this case, the expansion of a local business in a new location and the significant investment that is being made in our community. So this is moved forward with our recommendation from staff and my recommendation as your city administrator. I think this is, again, another great example of the vast majority of our job growth coming from the success of local businesses. And those that reach a threshold in terms of the amount of investment and net anticipated benefit to the community give us an opportunity to help with that in at least some way. and think that this has that potential and is worth your support. So I'd open it up for representatives from Lee Company to talk a little more about their project and what they see coming forward.
I'd be glad to do that. We're very grateful for your consideration. A couple of years ago, we moved to Williamson County from Davidson County. We were there for 55 years, I think, and moved here about 18 years ago, which turned out to be a great move for our company. We've grown substantially in that period of time, and a couple of years ago realized that we were going to outgrow the current facility we're in, so we started looking around, reviewing sites from all over the region, multiple counties, and thinking of what was going to be best for our employees, best for our company, best for this community. I'm from Williamson County all my life, and very much like the idea of having our company located here. It's been a great place for us. So I will say that one of the things that we look at, certainly business owners do, are a whole package of factors that weigh into where we're going to locate, and tax abatement is one of them. So we very much do want to stay in this county. We do anticipate significant growth over the next period of years. We only strategize for 5 years, but we currently have about 950 workers. We have about 230 that are located in our current facility, corporate facility, and that's what we're moving, is those 230 jobs to a new location. It'll be more than 230 by the time we move, but with the possibility of expanding that, we're building a building that'll really hold 500 corporate workers, and then our field workers are all over the region. One of the benefits of being here that we've seen from moving to Williamson County is the movement of a lot of those field people to this side of the region. Some in Williamson County, some not, but so yeah, that's our project. It's a $23 million project that we're hoping to complete in 2017, and so any questions you might have.
And I will clarify the numbers for you. So the job growth that they're anticipating is 68 new jobs at the corporate office, but they're actually an additional a total of 420 statewide additional jobs. So we do want to look at that. And then the 68 that are going to be at the corporate office, those average incomes are right at $68,000 per year. So we feel like those are really good wages for the area.
I should have mentioned, and Bill's too humble to say it, but Lee Company is the largest mechanical contractor in the state of Tennessee. So they do a lot of different work across the state in different areas. A lot of times you just think of the trucks you see in your neighborhood doing residential work, but they do all varieties of service and are the largest in the state in the work that they do. So we're proud that they're calling Franklin home.
Questions? Alderman Vice Mayor Barnhill.
I see the cap for the county is 430, the cap for the city is 8248 over the 5-year period.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And that once you reach that, because the investment, we were talking about estimates now, but once you reach that in abatement, once you hit that cap, that you've completed the obligation under the agreement.
Alderman Blanton.
I just wanted to echo Eric's last words in his first spiel. It is quite a victory to have a Williamson County boy run such a successful business, and for us to keep you here within our ranks. I will say 2 years, I've parked in the grass over on Mallory Station, so it's been burgeoning a lot longer than 2 years. So congratulations to your new expansion.
We're out of space for sure.
Alderman
Just a comment, it's always great keeping good companies here locally. So I will be in support of moving this forward and keeping good jobs here, keeping good companies here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have this on a vote for 7 o'clock today.
Right.
We're trying to keep up with the county.
Alderman Berger.
You would. When do you see this being completed for your
Fall of 2017.
17? Okay.
So your building built and you moved in on the fall of 2017?
Right.
Right.
Well, congratulations. Sounds like we'll have a vote tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item number 4 is consideration ordinance 2015-51 to be entitled an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Franklin, Tennessee, Chapter 3, Section 3.2, subsection 3.2.7, parentheses 5 pertaining to convenience stores and automotive fuel sales, and to amend Chapter 5, Section 5.3, subsection 5.3.6, parentheses 3 pertaining to automotive uses on lots located in major intersection to modify Figure 537, which references subsection. Is that enough?
This
Y'all
is
got
not
the
where we
gist?
put gas stations.
Yeah. That's a-
You have a planning team up here. We have quite a good-looking, sharp-looking gentleman up here. I like this. So let them talk about this project, or this amendment, or modification, and answer any questions. John.
Filling stations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If anyone was wondering, I am now the resident expert on automotive uses in the city of Franklin.
That's good.
The main difference between the ordinance that's in front of you today and what was discussed at several joint conceptual workshops over the past year, there is still a provision that prohibits automotive uses at the intersection of two major arterials, and there should have been maps included in your packet that showed what those locations were. The initial thought was that this was strictly for convenience stores, but the way that the ordinance is written, it's all automotive uses, so that would include car dealerships, used car dealerships, car washes, etc. So with that in mind, the visual impact of those on these critical intersections in the city, staff felt it was best to continue that specific provision within the zoning ordinance. Also, roof lines, there was much debate over roof lines. One of the things that we did notice as staff from all of the examples that you all provided us along with Planning Commission was that most of the canopies had pitched roofs on them, and the building form had various different styles of roof. So what we did was required in this ordinance the roof of both the canopy and the building to be pitched, and we left it somewhat vague to allow for different type of roof styles based on the built environment in which the use is going into. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Alderman Skinner.
Many of the questions we had were about traffic safety and turning and things like that. I appreciate this for major intersections, but has traffic safety also weighed in on this? Because I can see a situation where it could be a minor, it could not be a major artery, but if you still have to make a turn across 3 lanes, that sometimes creates dangerous situations.
The city street standards and the city engineering team would review any site plan or development plan that comes forward that includes these uses, and we would refer to their expert judgment on the location of the driveways and queuing or stacking of vehicles.
So their requirements, let's say if it said 200 feet from the end of the intersection before you could make a curb cut for this, all these things would still apply?
Correct.
Okay.
Doesn't mean there might not still be modifications, but you consider things like sight distance and how it interfaces with other traffic, et cetera.
Are there any provisions of where these would back up to residential areas?
Good question.
It is, our city ordinance does allow certain automotive uses in neighborhood commercial. So if there's the MAPCO on 96 that we used as an example, MAPCO and I believe Boyd Mill or Downs.
Down.
Downs.
That would be an example where a fueling station or automotive use does back up to residential, and we require specific provisions on how the building lays out, but also requiring a pretty hefty landscape buffer between the two uses.
Okay, so that landscape buffer would be greater than if
Feet?
it was a strip commercial, or?
Depending on the context in which the situation would be placed.
More feet required? That's what he's-
It wouldn't require any more feet than any other uses of that type developing in that situation.
Because many times we have, I'm trying to think of some of the latest requests. It's that if there's residential area, they're opposed to having, say, all-night lights on and things like that. That would be different from most residential, retail, restaurant, and so forth. And also, this is just for corner lots. So if there's a short corner lot, this could be closer to the corner than, again, do we go back to how many feet the cut can be? Because I'm trying to remember one that we've had up in Gateway.
Yeah,
That technically was not a corner lot.
That was horrible, too.
But there wasn't much left of that corner, though. That was a very narrow
So would
strip.
this application be allowed at that particular location now?
If you look at the picture.
We'd have to wait until something was submitted.
Oh, it's,
I think it's one of the
okay, but
circles.
again, if that's just on the corner, and this sets one lot away from the corner?
That particular use was within Gateway Village. They would have, that specific development would have to come in for a BOMA level development plan revision, to which all of you would be able to weigh in with your knowledge and opinions on the matter, along with a pretty rigorous staff vetting of that project.
Well, isn't that already allowed? The non-corner lot?
Yeah.
If you are off the corner, it is currently allowed.
What this does right here is modifies that to allow a corner lot to be developed
Correct.
for some automotive use, i.e. the convenience market, such as the example that you used. The last corner lot service station convenience market that was built in Franklin, Downs Boulevard, Highway 96 West.
Would not be allowed.
Would be allowed.
It would be allowed now.
Now,
Yesterday, it wasn't allowed, but we're trying to make it allowed today.
Hold on.
That one.
With the exception of about 13 intersections that are arterials, meeting arterials, you're allowing it for consideration at corner lots.
Not
So we would delete the prohibition and permit it.
Correct.
Except for
With the
those
exception of
arterials.
these 13 intersections that have been identified that are arterial to arterial.
So it's minor collection, it basically changing, making it so that it's permitted at intersection of a major and a minor.
Yes.
It would be Collector Road or below.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe I misunderstood. Are you saying, I thought you were saying that they wouldn't be permitted at the circles. You're saying that they would be
The
permitted
circles
at
that
the
are on
circle
here.
These are
lines?
arterial
The
versus
circles.
That are
the-
on here.
The map that was included in your packet
That's where-
was the intersections that we would continue to prohibit.
That's
Where the
what I
circles
said.
are,
Those are-
where the circles
Correct.
are,
There are
they're
more than
not
13 of them.
permitted.
Correct.
Yeah, there are more than 13.
These are not permitted where the circles are.
Yeah, there's more than 13.
Yeah.
I thought it counted
13.
That's what I thought.
Well, there's about 13 in the
One
northern
of them.
quadrant alone.
Exactly, exactly.
5, 9, 10, 11, 12, I count 12, 13. I count 13 in the northern quadrant alone.
And we did break it up into both the Cool Springs corridor, where we've seen the most interest, and then also 4 other quadrants around the city
Right.
to help.
Well, if you look at the
further
northern
visual
quadrant,
impact.
I mean, I could be wrong, but that looks like 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Yeah.
Now, there may be some overlap, but I've got, I mean, including one where there actually is a MAPCO at Hillsborough and McHatcher.
Yes, I saw that.
Would, and I don't know if that's technically the corner lot, but I doubt.
don't either. I don't think it is. Is it?
Well, but there's nothing going to be built in that corner.
Yeah, there are a few dozen, can we say?
So we're actually, the net effect here is to actually permit automotive uses more places rather than fewer.
Correct.
Right.
A lot more.
Any other questions?
Well,
Reverend Alderman
Yeah.
Berger?
Go ahead, Ann.
I was just going to say,
You might wanna-
these circles are on a lot of the arterial and collector intersections, I think.
Major,
Arterial.
That's where they're-
Arterial, yeah.
Well, it would do away with Gateway Tire, for example, not permitted, if it were done again.
McEwen at Cool Springs?
Is that, have I got the map wrong?
Is that? That's,
I could be reading the map wrong, but it looks like the corner of
yeah.
Mac Hatcher and Cool Springs, as well as the corner of Cool Springs and McEwen, there's a Gateway Tire there. That would no longer, so how did it get done in the first place?
How's that? It's not.
I wasn't here when that was.
I was going to say McEwen wasn't what it is now.
No.
Put it that way. Definitely not.
Yeah.
But under the prevailing ordinance and under the ordinance as revised,
Right.
for example, that gateway would not be permitted.
Right. At McEwen and Crow.
Nor if, for example, Whole Foods was Kroger, would that Kroger have been permitted to have a fuel canopy?
Not on the corner.
Yes, it is.
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
Depends on the
Foods is.
location of the fueling
You could,
station.
Well, that's,
Probably
Whole Foods is the hard corner there.
it's
It
not
is.
on the, yeah. it
It
depends.
is.
Okay, that's a good question. He's asking, so where Whole Foods sets, if they moved
It's
the,
not arterial.
if that were a Kroger and they moved it
Well, there's a
up,
circle
could they
there.
put a fuel station beyond it? More west to it,
What, we have the,
just not on the corner.
staff has defined corners as immediately at the intersection. So if it's one lot in, if it's
Yeah.
on an interior road, it is no longer at that major
Okay.
intersection.
Then they would be able to, okay. Right.
But the question that was brought up by Alderman McClendon was, and the example was Gateway Tire.
Right.
Yeah. it's a
So under
great-
the ordinance that we've got
That
now,
would be
and
out.
under the one that's being proposed, they would not be allowed to be there. Is that the answer?
Right at the corner.
Yeah, that would not.
But now,
I find that somewhat
I was
concerning.
thinking, whenever I thought automotive, I was thinking of a gas station, or convenience store. I wasn't thinking of anything that had to do with automobiles. Everything that had to do with automobiles.
I was thinking more convenience market myself when
I
we
was
were
too.
looking at this, and not just a
I can
used car
understand.
lot and a new car lot and all the other stuff that you included.
Yeah, I can
Do
understand
we
that.
need to subdivide this into those things that might stay on all night
I mean-
long versus a retail
There you go.
that may
Ah,
not?
There you go.
good point.
Good
I mean,
point.
do we really want to make a bunch of non-conforming uses? I don't know how many others there would be.
We already have them.
We already
We're
have.
trying to broaden the definition to allow this more places.
Which is a good thing.
Okay.
We need it.
The question is this arterial to arterial, where it's still seen as a potential issue in terms of how traffic works, especially with the fueling stations, that, you know.
Yeah, the fueling
That's-
station
that's-
or
That- that's
convenience
the- That was
store.
what originally drove the
I agree.
discussion, but there are some issues with how more other automotive uses interact, and that's what staff's still
Yep.
pointing to as a potential concern.
Does
I agree.
automotive parts stores fit into this as well?
See,
That's
Automotive
retail.
parts.
The physical sales of the parts isn't the automotive use, it's
Yeah.
when they're applied to the vehicle or service the vehicle.
Service, okay.
So if it was
Service.
just a store selling tires without the
That's retail.
installation,
Yeah.
it would be allowed because we do not regulate.
Is there such a thing as a place that sells tires that doesn't put them
I
on?
don't think so.
I have not seen one yet.
Just,
Cash it.
okay.
Probably not.
One of the other things I remember that they used in some of these situations to prevent these three-lane turns would be that little concrete median. Now, are we going to have to start installing concrete medians to prevent left turns across three lanes that, in these non-arterials?
We would refer to our engineering staff, and they would calculate the expected number of turning movements into and out of that driveway and out of that use. They may require it for a gas station, for a convenience store, for a Walgreens. It's more based on the intensity of use versus it's
The intensity.
The intensity of the use, the size of the use versus the actual use itself.
Yeah, you could have a restaurant that would generate as much, cross-lane traffic as a fueling station.
But wait just a minute. We're saying a restaurant, though, the people would be in there for a while, whereas at a fueling station, they might be there 5 or 10 minutes and move on. To me, that's the difference.
Yeah.
And we would refer to
Yeah.
our engineering staff, mainly Carl, to help us solve some of these issues.
Fast food restaurants could be.
Oh, that,
No kidding.
yeah, you're right.
There you go.
Fast food
Talk
could be,
about
sure
it,
enough.
Alderman Berger.
Yeah, you're talking in and out. Okay, question. Was anything in here, and if it's in here, I've missed it, about the location of the pumps? Because I know we just talked about pumps in the back, and these places will not come in if you have to put the pumps in the back. And then we've got issues with safety and all that stuff.
What we do have within our zoning ordinance is traditional versus conventional design districts.
Mhm.
So in traditional, the primary use would have to be brought up to the road, and that would be the convenience mart or whatever the main retail use is. So in situations that would occur, we would have to be very sensitive to the design of the site, the layout of the site, to ensure that there is the visibility for the pumps, but also that the pumps aren't the only feature that you see on that site.
Right.
And there's very few instances where in a commercial setting, or a conventional setting, that would have a gas station as an appropriate use. Traditional setting, that a gas station would be an appropriate use.
Because I know some of these companies will not come into a community if they have to hide their pumps in the back. They just don't do it. And then you lose them. So I'm concerned that we don't make them hide them in the back. I mean, because they can design them better today, and they're lower and they're not as intrusive. The other thing is, I'm really concerned with how these things are going to look. And when that company came in and presented a Gateway, even their design was like, nobody seemed to like it. It was like, doesn't fit Franklin. And if you go to places like Greensburg, Cary, North Carolina, those places, you can see what they make these gas stations do. And they design a very nice looking facility that is not got all these crazy colors and lights and everything else. And I know we've got ordinances on the lights, but more low-level lights and everything. So I'm really concerned with the architecture, the design, the materials that are used, and how it's fitting. If you look at that one that came in and presented at Gateway, okay, it was like, are you serious? This is not anything better than really what we see. The other thing was, if you look at, what's that one up in Brentwood, Concord and Wilson, that sits down a little bit, if you've seen it. It's mostly brick. It's not real obtrusive in the area, and it doesn't, scream out to you, hey, I'm like a multicolored gas station with neon lights kind of thing going on. So how do we address that in this?
The city has very strong design requirements in our zoning ordinance. Anything coming in would have to meet our existing design guidelines, which calls for enhanced hardscape versus brick or stone. It would require that on the canopy, all going up the sides. We regulate the lighting on the sides. We regulate, with this ordinance, the roof styles of both the canopy and the main use. We have extensive screening requirements for landscape. New automotive uses coming into the city would have to meet city standards.
Okay, the reason I asked that, because I don't think anything has changed since the people came in here and presented at Gateway. And they were trying to meet our standards, and yet we were all saying, this needs to be better. So my suggestion, Bob, is for you all to work on that and to tweak that as much as we need to in order to get what we want in the community, especially in these new areas. Because right here, according to this, they're not going to let, if I'm reading this map right, they're not going to let at McEwen in Cool Springs, at Oxford Glen, a station here, although people have asked for one there. And then some have asked for it not to be right there by the residential, but maybe down further, so that wouldn't be on the corner. So actually, they could do it if they weren't on the corner. But they were really interested in how that would look. And they saw some of these things. We had a meeting out there last year, and they were talking about the look of these places. And some of them said, hey, we've gone to all these other communities, and they've got fabulous-looking stations. Why are not our standards that tight, especially in the newer areas where they're going to put them in? And then other places where, you know, stations could also come in maybe to older areas as well. I see there's one here, and it's not marked. So it would probably be allowed on Carruthers and Liberty, correct? That would be allowed.
I'd have to double check the roadway
Because that's
classifications.
another area people in that whole area were asking for a gas station because they really need one over there. And so, but they are, again, we have Ovation coming in, we've got the college and everything, and they're really very concerned how these things are going to look.
The land cost may dictate Carruthers and Liberty Pike.
Yes.
Could be, but they also could make that work, possibly, so. But anyway, those are things I've heard from a lot of the different residents, because we've discussed these things quite often in different meetings we've had over there.
Other concerns or questions or comments before we move on?
Let me see if I can word this way that I want to work. So what has been the driving or the purpose of this ordinance? I mean, we've covered everything from the color of the brick to the side of the landscaping to the eaves of the roofs. But the ordinance itself, when we first started looking at this, was to allow for a convenience market on a corner lot. It wasn't?
Yep.
It was?
Yep. That's what we've been working on.
Okay.
And that's what, we've had a couple different workshop discussions around that and brought these different issues forward. And it is primarily about the location. We didn't get into
Okay, all right.
so much a modification of design standards as it is dealing with this, the options for location, and to essentially broaden that where it made sense to broaden that definition.
All right.
I would still like to see, you know, and Bob brought to us, you know, hey, let's put this commercial node down on South Carruthers, and that's before this is built up. I would hate to see the situation where there happens to be commercial property near a residential area
Yeah.
that suddenly they're going to have an all-night gas station in their
Yeah.
backyard.
Kind of like
that's
where
a
we were
tough
looking
one.
at South Carruthers, the zoning's changed right there so that there could be
Yeah, and that's
some-
a good idea, but they'll know that before they build or buy a home there. It's these then that are going to be after the fact. I bought my home and now I back up to an all-night service station. That's my concern for our citizens.
You can direct the lights, and you can do the landscaping, and you can do whatever is required, that the residential is minimally affected by a convenience market being on a corner lot.
Well, that is harder though, because it would be 24/7 as opposed to the usual commercial in just a strip center.
Typically,
That's
the
the
ones that are
difference.
open 24/7 are by interstate access though.
Mhm.
You think about like Sam's, they
Some of them
close
not.
at whatever time. You think about the one in front of Williamson Square, it closes in the evening.
Well, the one that they were talking about at Gateway was going to be 24/7.
Gotcha.
And to speak about the project that was at Gateway, I know it's been discussed several times tonight. That didn't come back to Planning Commission or BOMA.
No, then,
So it should be telling of
yeah.
the requirements that would have had to be met, the standards that the city has in place.
And the secret to it is to get that in the plan on the front end.
Yes.
Before the first house is built, so that everybody knows that that area is going to be commercial. And that's what's happening in West Haven. People are beginning to fuss about the development out there, but there's not one brick that's going in that wasn't on that plan. And so there's nothing you can say about it. It was on the plan, and whatever you build, whatever you're zoning that for, needs to be on the very front end before the first house is built in that area. Then you know.
And I think one of the difficulties was in Gateway, it was supposed to be a bank.
Right.
That was the original plan for it, so that's also makes it difficult.
All right, number 5, considers ordinance 2015-55 being entitled an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Franklin, Tennessee. I'm not going to read all that. Basically, allowing clinics as a permitted use within the central commercial district. So y'all can paraphrase.
No, you said it perfectly, Mayor. We would just be adding clinic uses into the CC zone district and amending the parking table to just correct it from being an office use to a clinic use. Parking standards would remain the same, but just adding that use to the CC district.
And I wanted to say that the concern that I have is because of parking, because in the central commercial, whenever you look at all those possible places, the parking could be the most difficult part for even something that is a sole practitioner.
Correct, and as the parking is based off of a traffic study or parking study for each use, so they'll have to look at the size of the property in which it's located, and, if it's too small of a property, then they might, the use just can't go there. So that's going to control a lot of where these uses can actually locate.
Even though it's gone into a category that has fewer parking spaces required. Is that correct?
They would still do the parking analysis to determine the number of spaces that they'd be required, and if it's in a larger development, they would have, that BNS would factor that in.
But in the graph, didn't it show it dropped from 2.85 to 2 or something, a number of parking spaces per?
The graph?
The
Table.
No.
Table, yes.
All the table did was just change it from, it was listed as an office use. We deleted it as an office use, it's classified as a civic and institutional use, moved into that. Same parking requirements, and it's based off a parking study.
But it didn't reduce the number
No
of parking
change in the
spaces
standards,
from
just.
medical to
Nope.
clinic?
Same requirement, just
Okay. I
have to be
misread.
based off of the study.
Alderman Berger?
This is not limited to medical, though, is it?
Clinic uses, could be a doctor, optometrist, it could be a full-size clinic like you have at the,
But that's medical. It's not
Yeah.
limited to medical. Is there other kinds of clinics that you can think of?
You're talking about dog clinics, kennels.
I'm just talking
Ooh,
about clinics.
no, that's a separate use.
I want to know what other kind of clinics there are out there.
Clinic uses, it would be, you could have out on 96 in Murfreesboro Road, you have Vanderbilt Clinic that has multiple doctors with diagnostic
Those are all
services.
medical.
All medical.
Is there anything outside medical that you can think of that this fits?
This is fascinating. What's it got to do with gas stations?
We moved to another one.
We moved on.
We're to the next one. It may be convenient to have a gas
I'm
station.
thinking there's a clinic for that, too.
No, the use,
I'm as interested in gas stations as clinics.
the definition of clinics, I don't have it in front of me.
It's
I saw
Very
it said.
medical,
Spells out.
psychiatric, or surgical
Yeah.
services.
I think it's all human care.
Oh, that might be important, though.
Includes professional offices for medical professionals, included but not limited to physicians, dentists,
that-
and other related medical practitioners.
Oh, that's in my staff, in
Okay,
the staff report.
question. Would that also include abortion clinics?
What kind of clinics?
Abortion clinics? Would that include that? Pardon?
It's medical
Is that
clinic.
considered a clinic? Is that considered a clinic? I'm just curious.
Physicians, dentists, and other related medical
It's not
practitioners.
necessarily a physician. Well, yeah, it is, maybe.
BNS would make that classification, but it
Yeah.
seems like it would fall under
Okay.
medical practitioner.
And then,
Yes.
in psychiatric and whatever this says,
Yeah.
medical. And there's something else I was thinking about. What was it? Educational clinics. Do you have any of those?
I don't think
types
that's
of
What's an
things? They're not.
educational
What's an
clinic?
educational
They're not,
Definition.
like, those are learning centers. So
Yeah.
that wouldn't be considered a clinic, would
The
it?
mayor just read the definition
Yeah,
twice.
okay.
Right.
So that's it.
That would be a
I'm
different
just
use
curious.
classification.
All right, that's all. I just want to make sure. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks, Mayor. We're going to go to number 6, which is ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the city of Franklin, Tennessee, Chapter 3, Section 3.3, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Entitled Landscape
Yada,
and.
did you just
re-
yada, 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 an entire caption?
Yeah. I would too if you read.
We're not talking about gas stations anymore, so,
You wouldn't yada, yada, yada a caption.
I mean, you're welcome to read this to us, Alderman
No,
McLean.
you're
If
good.
you'd like to read
You're doing a
it,
good job.
great.
Well, Mayor, I promised you that we're working on revising those captions so you have the purpose of what we're doing in front before we
Yeah.
give you all the numbers. So you'll be
Good.
seeing that in upcoming amendments.
Yeah,
But this is an amendment.
Synopsis. A synopsis would be good.
Yes.
There you go.
This is an ordinance to amend several tables in the zoning ordinance to remove the landscape surface ratio requirements in the CFCO 1 and 9 character areas. We discussed it at joint conceptual a couple months ago, and the planning commission recommended approval of it.
So landscape surface ratio and open space.
Yeah,
So are we increasing it?
removing it, eliminating the requirement.
Oh,
Look
you're-
on your map.
Yeah, I saw that.
Downtown.
I saw that.
So for example, the Franklin Theater property, when they did
Right.
some development there, they had to provide a little square of green space in the back of the building that didn't make any sense. And so we're talking about
All right.
the core area,
So
and it's a,
We're getting more practical. Okay.
correct.
Got it.
Okay, we'll go to number 7.
Smart.
Ordinance 2015-59 to be entitled ordinance to rezone 5.19 acres from specific development residential district to attached residential RM20 for property located at 780 Oak Meadow Drive, establishing a public hearing for December 8th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this ordinance is really to correct a mathematical error. In the past, this property was, it was zoned SDR 9.16, and in effect, it took away some of the entitlement that this property held. So what this is correcting that
Okay.
and zoning the property to RM20.
Which is what's around it, correct? Is that what's around it?
Yes, it is, yes.
Is that Southwinds area?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So this is also a rezoning, but
You know, all the development reports said that they're, over the years have said they have X more that they could put in there.
And as Frank said, it's a mathematical error to correct that so that they will be entitled to that additional 100 units that they've been entitled to for 20 years.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay.
What about the next one?
Yep.
It's on Southwinds also. Is that related?
That's the same.
Same deal?
is it part of the same,
Correction, it is.
All right.
same
Getting the
correction?
math right on
Good.
both
Step
parts.
right over there.
So are we correcting this because there's been interest, or?
Yes. Yes,
So
it is.
we could possibly approve another 120 units for Royal Oaks and Oak Meadows?
Yes.
But as Mr. Martin has said, they have had that approval since whenever.
At least 20 years, I
Yeah.
think.
And that's still good?
Okay, number 9, ordinance
Well,
2015.
Mayor, can I say one more thing?
Sure.
This is probably one of our densest traffic areas in the morning and the afternoons. And, yes, they were entitled to this for years, but it seems counterproductive to add more dwelling units
Yep,
of this number to an area that's already
I agree.
more than compromised as far as our traffic ability to move traffic.
Yep.
It's very frustrating.
However, let me say though, if they have had this for 20 years, then I don't see how you're going to take it away from them,
You're not.
You can't go back.
Can't
We
do
don't
That's
want to
right.
go there.
even in the court.
I know, but the
even in the
public's going to
courts.
see there's more people and more cars
But you can't
and
do
more
anything about it.
sitting there.
It's the new
and
stuff,
there's
not the
no
old stuff.
relief in sight.
Oh, okay,
It's
so,
the new stuff, not the old stuff.
so with that said, Mike, is there room in this for new development then to require them to improve the road out front?
What
Turn
they-
lanes and things of that nature if they're going to
We
bring.
can't answer that question. I
Yeah.
guess the only saving grace to it now is that
Yeah.
when they travel north, they'll have a traffic light at Murfreesboro Road. When they travel east,
Yep.
they'll have one at South Carolina.
That's right.
But if they
they
travel
don't
south,
have to
they
move
had to.
I'll make you a plaque, Margaret. Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay, I go on record as being frustrated, okay?
Number 9, ordinance 2015-19, an orders to amend the City of Franklin Municipal Code Appendix A, Comprehensive Fees and Penalties, Chapter 12, relating to
I know.
residential construction permit fees. Hey,
There we go.
Lynn.
We want to bring to you
Next, you're
a
up.
proposal to look at our fee structure, something we have not adjusted for some time. 2006 was the last time that has occurred. And really, our goal is that we are offsetting at least the direct costs associated with providing that permitting service. And so we've done some math to show you those costs and the number of units and the square footage that is developed over about a 5-year period, and propose an updated fee based on that. So Lynn and Chris are here to talk about the details, and this proposal would get us back in line with recapturing those costs, at least the direct costs associated with residential development as we move forward. Chris, take it away.
Thank you. I wanted to kind of walk you through the budget that we took a look at to actually analyze these fees for the single-family building permits. They were last adjusted in July of 2006, and our current permit fee is 48 cents per square foot. We studied the BNS operations budget to see how we're doing. We looked at the actual expenditures from the operations budget over the past 5 years, less capital expenditures, which includes equipment and land, and less enforcement activities, which includes zoning and property maintenance. We then came up with the number of permits issued for new single-family detached dwellings and compared that with the total number of permits issued. An average of 62% of permits issued over the last 5 years were for single-family new homes. We calculated the portion from the actual budget amounts needed to issue, administer, and support single-family permits based on the percentages of the single-family permits. Based on the actual fees collected for new single-family permits, we calculated the difference of the revenues versus the expenditures. And over the past 5 years, we have spent almost $400,000 more than what we would have collected in permit fees. The proposed new fee amount of 59 cents per square foot is calculated using the total expenditures attributed to issuing, administering, and supporting permits for new single-family detached dwellings divided by the total number of feet for the single-family dwellings over the past 5 years.
You're recommending go up to
59 from 40.
We also, pardon me?
11 cents.
She's still not.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, we also took a look at permit fees nationally in the state of Tennessee and in some other surrounding states. Using the average size and the average construction cost for a new single-family home built in Franklin, we calculated the permit fees in the other areas. Each community has a slightly different way of calculating the fees and offers different levels of service in each community. As you can see from our chart, we fall somewhere in the middle. The average permit fee nationally, according to the National Association of Home Builders, is $3,647. Using the proposed 59 cents per square foot for the average City of Franklin home of 4,068 square feet, the permit fees will average $2,400.
The other element of this that we would propose is, so that we don't get in a situation where we're 9 years and haven't adjusted a fee, is to look at tying this to an inflationary calculation so that we modify it based on a cost of living adjustment as we go forward. That's the other element that we're proposing to just keep it more current. If you did an inflation calculation from '06 to now, you're roughly in this ballpark, depending on what barometer you use, in terms of this same general level of per square footage fee. So that's one way for us to keep it up to date and not have to do this calculation every year, although we can do that if you would like, but that's another mechanism that might simplify that ability to adjust it and keep it more current.
How long has it been, 48?
It's been 48 since 2006, so 9 years.
Okay. And you're suggesting 59?
Mm-hmm.
Let's break even.
Yes.
Okay. Item number 10, and let's see, we're going to go 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
That's it.
Which are all...
Those are all water, at least, yeah.
Water Department chemicals. Are there any questions about those?
Pretty much.
Good answers.
Good job.
Thank you. I would like to point out, I believe, and this goes from memory, but the unit cost for the chemicals has gone down in every case, so.
Gone
It's a
down?
good bid. So
Why is that?
chemical costs will fluctuate with market.
Oh,
We
just not
got a
because
good
of
bid this
bulk or
year.
anything like that? Oh.
No, ma'am.
We're diluting them.
No, Margaret, that's not true.
I will point out too, item 14 does deal with our disposal of
Yeah.
the sludge, the biocide sludge.
Yeah.
This does anticipate the transition from where we are today, where we have the true sludge, to where we might move to where we're no longer having to dispose of it at landfills and take other options. So it does provide that flexibility over the term of this arrangement. It is an increase, but the good news is we do have the ability to take it to a closer landfill in Lewisburg.
Really?
There have been some modifications that open up that possibility to us. We again, though, still want to continue to move towards where we have the higher quality biosolid at the end of the process to give us more opportunities and less need to go to landfills and can use it in multiple other ways. So it's still very promising to keep moving in that direction. We're glad we're not going to have to drive quite as far, but we're still very limited in the facilities that can accept this waste.
So does the cost of the landfill, are we saving money by not using as much gas for the vehicle?
You'll save money in the hauling. Your cost per ton is going up from what we pay today.
So will this be less or more for?
It's going to be pretty close balance on the two. Yeah, and we started running through a cost analysis, and if you include staffing and everything else, there's, with the reduction of staff time on the road, you add value to having them at the plant and being able to do other things. So in putting a cost to that, I think we could work on that, but it got a little unwieldy when we started digging into that.
Pretty close to the
Right, so I'd say we're pretty good. Now, I would like to add that the memorandum was written based on 15,000 tons annually. We're somewhere, and that was for the bidding process itself. So we're right now probably about 12 to 12,500 tons annually. So
How much was that?
12,500 roughly tons of solids annually, and that's about a 16-17% solids. So that's what we'll haul over the next year. So.
You got a question on the market?
Well, where are we in our progress of doing our own?
Our own, the wastewater plant project with biosolids, we are currently going through,
The permitting process.
the permitting process. So once the permitting process is done,
That's-
they can evaluate the plant design work, at which point we can start the bidding process, and we look to do that in the spring of
We haven't ordered
2016.
anything yet to start building.
No. The things that we've done to date are pre-selection on some equipment, but the bidding has not been done.
Including, though, the biosolid component.
Correct.
You've identified the technology and vendor you're going to use for that.
Right.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Okay,
So that,
number,
is that price just for a year, right?
That is
Is it-
for,
is it
I think
locked
it's
in?
5 years.
Is it
is it
3? Or
maybe 3 years with, and I'm sorry, I should have had this in my
It
head.
wasn't
but-
1, it's 3. I thought,
Year, 5, but there's annual, you can
Yeah.
do
Renewals.
extensions for,
so, okay.
so the
so
total
we've got it
term
for a
is
while.
5 years.
Yes.
Okay,
You get
that
5.
3111,
Mhm.
were we paying like 28 before or
So
something?
we're paying $26.29, I believe it
Oh,
was.
really?
Yes, ma'am. So it's going up about
Almost $5.
$5 per
Oh.
ton.
I thought it was like 2 or 3. Wow.
Yes.
lot shorter run, then.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If
About
that's the
a
thing
little
up
less
and
than half
running.
the distance, so.
We could save some money. All right. Thank you.
15 has to do with Turf Breaker Corporation of Rolette, Texas, the lump sum of $28,190 for one new and unused trailer-mounted hydro seeder for the Stormwater Division of the Streets Department.
What's a hydro seeder?
Any question about that?
It's already budgeted.
Oh, is that one of these spray things?
Yeah,
Is that, all right,
spray on seating.
spray on seating? Yeah.
And basically, this had been included as a contractual service, I think, in one of the stormwater projects.
Yes.
And we basically said we could buy the equipment and do the work ourselves, as opposed to pay
Yeah.
for it in one project. And so it's pretty close to a direct offset to actually have the equipment and have the capability going forward to do it with our own folks. So that's we talked
Yeah.
about that, I think, at a CIC a couple months ago, and that's what this reflects.
Yeah, good. Great.
Yes, do it.
Okay, number 16
Come on, Mrs. Spread.
is Resolution 2015-94, good job, Joe, a resolution extending the interim position of Planning and Sustainability Director till May 31st of 2016.
In May of this year, we appointed Bob Martin to serve in the interim role as planning director. What I would like to do and what I'm recommending we do is that we extend that for another 6 months. I can do that within my authority, and that's what I presented to you
Go do
in
it.
May, but I'd like to extend it out to May of 16, knowing that we will start our recruitment process at the first part of 16. So staff has benefited greatly from Bob's leadership. Bob's doing a great job. He's willing to keep doing it. So if you're okay with that, we would like you to go ahead and grant that approval to take us through May of 16.
Got it.
Can we kiss your feet?
We just voted, you see that?
Oh, good.
No, we didn't.
You did not. You will in 2
In your
weeks.
mind, you voted.
Yeah, all right.
So last is consideration of employment contract with City Administrator Eric Stuckey. This would be pretty much the same contract, except the terms would be for 4 years rather than 3, with 2 one-year extensions, and have linked with it a market study at some point in time that would evaluate the competitiveness of the salary being paid, and also continued ongoing evaluation on a periodic basis for performance. So I think I've discussed most of it with it. The only change since I spoke with you is the making it 4 years rather than 3. So we got through by 6:30.
Is that
So
a
any
national,
questions?
is that national study for salary?
Yes.
Yep, okay. Good.
So,
All right. Wow.
very good.
Amazing. Thank you.